Hey, Family Movie Storybooks here. I want to show you some of the free tools that we have that'll help you as you're contemplating making your family book and thinking about all the stories that you might want to tell. A lot of people find this overwhelming. If you go to this menu at the top here, you'll see it says books, and if you go to this first one that says interviews, it'll bring up this page here called Family History Interview Preparation. And the first thing you can do, of course, is book yourself a package with us so we can start on your book. You can also schedule some interviews here, but the thing I want to show you is right here, interview tools. There are 4 tools listed right here that will make your job of coming up with what's going to be in my book a lot easier. And I want to just show you what they are. So the first thing you see right here is the Life Story Questionnaire. The Life Story Questionnaire is a document that me, Corey, has built over 25 years of interviewing people. And you know what we discovered right away was we don't want to waste a single second of your interview or your parents' interview asking dumb questions. When I say dumb, I mean questions that we could have gotten the answer some other way rather than during the interview time that we have, because those interviews go by so quickly. Things like date of birth, date of death, the full name and spelt out, your mother's name, and your mother's name, right? So your grandmother on your mother's side, your father's mother's father's name, your mother's father, and same with your dad's side. And so we really want to try to get the place of birth, that's the POB, the date of birth, the DOB, and the date of death if that's applicable. And scribbling all these things into these boxes. This form, of course, is a PDF. You can scribble away inside of here, or you can add additional pages to this if you like. The other thing is we've got this box called aunts and uncles. Of course, these are your mother and father's siblings, brothers and sisters, and it's kind of undifferentiated. Again, you may want to break them down into maternal and paternal, especially if you have a lot of them. And then, of course, your siblings, your brothers, your sisters, they may play a role in your book. You might want to feature them, especially if they've had interesting lives or have values that could be useful to the next generation. And then this part jumps into sort of being about the person that this form is mostly about. In other words, whoever's name is in here, because you could fill out one of these forms on behalf of your mother or your father or with them, or it could be you personally, or it could be from your grandmother or your grandfather's point of view. Either way, these information boxes here relate to the life of the person that the form is mostly about. So maybe if you're filling it out for your mother, then it's where did she grow up? You know, what schools did she go to? What kind of education did she obtain? If it's someone you're filling it out for may have had some military service of some sort. Employment, people have lots of careers often, or jobs, and so you'd want to denote that information. Try to get names of companies and organizations if you can. Try to figure out the years, find out the locations. Some of this stuff can be found online as well, and then we can maybe even match it up with some visuals if you don't have any photos that go with it. And of course, there's always the engagement, the love story, right? Getting married, the honeymoon, that kind of thing, and the name of the spouse that came across. And of course, there might be more than one spouse. You might want to delineate in here 1, 2, 3, and so on, if there's more than one. And then, of course, every person may or may not have children. If there's children involved, whether or not you're going to put them in the book, and there's people debate about this, because they're not ancestors, they're descendants, right? So they come after rather than before. So, but if you do decide you're going to put your kids in there, it's good to list their names and their children, your grandchildren, and so on and so forth. Hobbies, travels, memberships, volunteer activities, achievements, awards, best known for, lived in all the towns and cities listed in, and story headlines. These are all just different ways of looking at someone's life. And so, and there's other ways. So whatever is going to give you and the interviewer some stuff to dig into to sort of harvest the beauty of the life that's being documented, that's a great way to go. We also have other details. You could fill in all sorts of other stuff right in there. Headlines are kind of the things, they're the stories that if you ask your kids, what do you want to hear from, mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, they'd say, oh, tell the story about the, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like a classic story in your family, and it's kind of either got a punchline or a headline. And so that's the Life Story Questionnaire. If you never even move on to making a family book with us, and all you do is fill this form out and hand it to your kids, they're going to be so grateful someday. Listen, face it, we're all going to pass on at some point. There's going to be a funeral or a celebration of life, most likely, and that's when they are least capable of thinking because of all the emotions. And if you've already given them this form, they can go ahead and talk about you and honor you and actually start to do their emotional healing around your loss. So fill this form out either way and give it to your kids. The other thing that you can download here on our interviews download is this thing called the family tree chart. Family trees are super valuable if you are making a family book or a family movie. The reality of it is in all of our family trees, we probably have, depending on how many generations you go back, thousands of people in your lineages, depending on which side you're looking at, your mothers, your fathers, their fathers. It's a web of connections going back in time, and first question you'll be asked by our interviewer and by our designer is, well, which of these lineages are you going to want to cover? So it's really useful to sort of get an aerial view of who your ancestors are and try to decide which are the ones you know the most about, which are the ones you have something interesting to say about, and then focus on those ones. There's dozens of others, maybe thousands of others that you know, or maybe you could find, but the question is do you have anything to say about them? And unless you've done extensive research, you may not, and even then you still might not have that much interesting stuff. So start with who you know, and I think if you're the lead character in this thing, or you're working on a book for your family, put your own name here where it's a star, and then there's a spot for your father and your mother, and then you can see on each of these sides there's kind of like this dotted line down the middle. For your father, then he's got a mother, which is the grandmother, your grandmother, and he's also got a father, which is your grandfather, and of course your father had some siblings, your aunts and uncles, and then your father also had some aunts and uncles of his own, which was his grandfather's siblings or his mother's siblings. So you see how this works. It gives you little convenient boxes to scribble stuff in. It's not huge. If you write small, you can cram a lot of information, but it'll help you get organized and decide who is who and in your tree. The thing about a book, a family book, is think about the first book you do as volume 1. So maybe you pick 10 people on this tree, and those are the ones you focus on. And then when that book is published and printed and the kids are reading it for bedtime stories, then you start working on volume 2 and you pick some more of these ancestors, and that becomes the next book. And that's the way to go at it. The other thing is you'll see down here it says spouse 1 and 2. So the C spouse family tree. So I would say print out several copies of this, because the spouse, the mother of say your children or your grandchildren, has her own father and mother and grandmothers and grandfathers. And so it's easy to blend them all together into one complex thing. But when families split, grab a new one of these sheets of paper and add a new family tree chart for those folks. The other thing you'll see on this download here is something called the 110 interview questions. And the reason I created this was because so many times people tell me, well, I don't know what I'd say if I was interviewed, or if I interviewed my mother, I wouldn't know what to ask her. All of the questions in this 110 interview questions document, I have asked at some point or another with somebody. Now, these questions may or may not be applicable to you, but they'll get you thinking. If you get stuck in the moment, you got 20 more minutes to go and you've already worked through your notes, then pull this thing out and start asking some of these questions. You'll be amazed at what opens up. A lot of them are very straightforward things, and a lot of them map up directly to the life story questionnaire. So instead of just reading these off, you can actually come in with a question. But here's one: did your parents talk about giving birth to you? Like, were you planned, right? Or was it an accident? There's always a story in there, right? That could be useful to the next generation. What else happened the day you were born? Google the day you were born, and you'll find out all sorts of things were going on in the world. What was your mother's full name, including maiden name? Who were your parents, your mother's parents? And when you move down into later parts of this list here, did anyone in your family, including aunts and uncles, have unusual or special characteristics? A very vague question, but it might be the thing that gets the eye patch, or the peg leg, or like, I'm just making stuff up here, but you know what I'm saying. The interesting things that are going on in your family's background. What kind of a student were you, or were they? Did you enjoy school? These are all questions you can ask directly to people. What advice did your parents give you? What lessons did they try to instill? When did you feel you had become an adult? These are all great questions, because when the children are reading your book, some of this information might inspire them. So there's 110 of these questions. I'm not suggesting you ask all of them. I'm not even suggesting you ask any of them, but some of them might be useful. So spin through that. Last thing I want to show you is on this interview form is something called the generic sentence completions. Again, it's another way to come at asking questions that make sense. So with 110 with these interview sentence completions, you've got my name is, and then fill in the blanks. So you basically, when you're interviewing somebody, the temptation for you is to say, well, tell me your name, and they go, John Smith. That's okay if you're making a book, but if you're trying to use this recorded media, also say in a movie, a film, a video, you're going to be better off with full, complete sentences. What you want them to say is, my name is John Smith. And then you say, well, tell me where you were born. What you want them to say is, I was born on, this date in that city in this country. So you want them to speak in full sentences. So what these sentence completions do is give you the starter point of the sentence, and you chirp it out to them. And then you pause and let them repeat it. What I admire about my father is, and then they fill in the blank. So they say the sentence completion part. And there's a lot of great sentence completions. One of my greatest accomplishments in life is, what I'm proud of is, the number one thing on my list of top 10 things I learned in life is lots of great little things here that you could use. What I like best about, here's the other thing. This also includes what we call blessings. And if you're interviewing somebody who has a lot of descendants, children, grandchildren, one of the things you can do that is absolutely emotionally nurturing at the highest degree is where you put the names of each child or grandchild in here. And then you get the elder to speak about it. So in the case of, say, a mother talking about her daughter, what I like best about Betty is her charm and her wit, and that can either as a recorded audio piece or a video file or transcribed and going into a book in the section about Betty is like food for the soul. Those are called sentence completions. And so those are the things you can download at our website, FamilyMovieStorybooks.com, and you want to be on the page called Family History Interview Preparation. And if you are thinking about doing your own family book and it's kind of confusing, you're not sure where to go, set up yourself a free consultation with us, and we can go through and help build a strategy for you so that you know exactly how to move forward in coming to the place of publishing your family book and being able to give it out as a gift. I'm Corey Bretz. Thanks for listening.